think that's what it should look like for everything. Flip a component is there. Reverse is true, and this should be just a flip book. Thank you, Ferocious Splash. That is very much appreciated. We're working on refactoring a whole bunch of C++ stuff right now, and we're just, if there's like a level of like awful that you get stuck in, or like mire that you're stuck in while you're coding and refactoring stuff, we are like waist deep in just awful things at the moment. Because yeah, we're working on getting everything sorted, and it is pulling teeth to get it where we want it to be. Where is duration? Duration's there. We're basically pulling out the animation component and making it so it's not specific. The animation controller component that I've got, and making it non-specific to entities, so we can use it on effects and other game objects in Unreal. And that's not the easiest thing in the world to accomplish. Mainly because it's just a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff we gotta do. I tried to pull off my weighting pins, yeah. We're getting there, though. And the cool thing is, once we do get there, we can actually hook up a lot of cool things. But we're in for quite a bit of compile errors and debugging, fixing stuff. Ooh. And we have another issue, which is where we're using these integer IDs instead of grabbing the actual flipbook pointers. Oh man. Alright, so we gotta change that. There's gotta be a reason why this is the way it is. So the animation ID, basically, do we need this anim data? We don't need the anim data, so we won't get it. So we should do like U paper. Yeah. So it's the U paper flipbook pointer, flipbook equals and wanted state.in flipbook. So if flipbook is null pointer, wanted state reset. Yeah, okay, good. Wanted state interrupt false. It's basically equal, and then this is the flipbook here. And flipbook equals null pointer. Same here. Alright, we got current state, reversed, blah. Flipbook component, wanted states reset, flipbook. Right, we need to get rid of these animation IDs here. Play from time, play from reverse time, play X, resume, stop, set animation duration. Clear state change, get current, get animation time, frame count, get animation ID, get wanted animation ID, animation exists, get rid of that, get animation data, get animations, default duration, get default loop. Yeah, we don't want any of that. Current state, wanted state has any sockets, that's fine, the socket exists, query support sockets. Animation callbacks, get animation ID by name, typeset. so we've got all of this. Okay, good. That works. So next thing we want to do is we need to be able to change all of these different plays here. So this is going to be the entity animation controller component. We don't want to edit this. Alright, so we have to actually go back through all these plays and re-declare them right here. And basically the animation controller component is a bit of a complicated beast. The idea is that when you tell something to play an animation, that it smartly transitions to that animation and also exposes things like in an easy to use fashion. So you say like, play this animation, play it in loop, play it but reverse it, play it but reverse it, and interrupt the current animation, play it in reverse with the duration, play it in reverse with a loop, play it in reverse from time, play from time, all this other stuff, like all the different ways you can play an animation. And if on the same frame you tell something to play an animation, like you say, run, and in that same frame, some other check later goes and says, walk. Well, what should happen? Well, the animation that you're playing should continue walking, right? Because it was the last thing I was called. But it's even more complicated than that, because you have to actually say like, oh, well, what if you were already walking, right? Do you reset the walk animation to frame 0? No, you need to just keep walking and not do anything, right? So there's a whole lot of logic here that just literally has not been implemented by Paper 2D, which we have to go do. And we also want this animation controller to be like, play this other flipbook. So we need to actually make all of these functions over again, but we need to actually pass in a paper flipbook to it for every single one of them. So we have to duplicate all these functions yet again, because we need them. We need to be able to say all the things. And because of Blueprint's not allowing us to overload functions by name, we have to make unique names for everything, which sucks. So we're basically just assembly lining a hell of a lot of stuff here. So we're obviously going to have a shitload of errors to deal with and like bugs to fix, and just it's going to be nasty. But we got to overhaul all this stuff so that we can get our effects working the way that we'd like them to work. Because you could write a naive animation controller that, just does what you tell it to. Like, you tell it to play an animation, it'll go ahead and play an animation. But that's not what you want a lot of the time, right? Like, you want it to be smart. God, ooh. I don't know where that came from. And these should all be play default. Well, it's time to compile things and see just all the horrible crap that's broken. So was it Saturday? Yeah, it is Saturday, alright. Just so many different ways to play your flipbook. Rebuild is not declared, so rebuild. Virtual void rebuild. There's no rebuild here. It's protected. Let's see. Rebuild? Yeah, so rebuild needs to be here as well. Virtual void rebuild override. And this is where version control also is super important for doing stuff, because I missed a function here that I deleted. And normally you'd be like, ah crap, where is that thing? And I can just go back to my version control diff and see what it was beforehand, and just copy it out of the history if there's something that I missed. It's kind of amazing, the ability with C++ to make just horribly complicated shit. But also that you can make that sort of awful, horribly complicated stuff. You know, like... just that you even can make stuff that is so complicated and awful inside of this thing. Really goes to show just the power of C++. So we're getting there. We're slowly fixing our problems. We only have like 300 problems left to fix, but you know, that's not really a problem. U-paper flipbook component, illegal use of this type expression. What? Get component by class is new paperclip component. Alright. Cannot convert from uActor component to uActor. Oh, come on. Where's the hell is the damn convenience class? There's not a get component by class that doesn't require all this crap. God, this is so stupid. Alright, so it's saying this error cannot convert upaper flipbook to uanimation wrapper. And this is entity animation controller. Well, I'm trying to call playEX on the parent class. And that's calling it with the flipbook. Interrupt loop start duration reverse. Start duration reverse. Well, this thing should definitely be able to call it. Oh, give me a fucking break. Play is not, it should be play animation. Yeah, okay, so these are all play animation. I believe. Let's double check that before we go. Yeah, it's play animation. Alright, so we got those. Let's build again. I'm not sure why these things are having trouble calling playEX. PlayEX should definitely be set properly. It's like cannot convert from upaper flipbook to upaper flipbook point. Yeah, okay, so that's fine. We copy pasted this crap all wrong, so we forgot a star. So let's fix the star. We're starting to get there. Now why are you so angry? It's like you're not actually... Stop is not a member of Entity Animation Controller. It's because I didn't replace all the component stuff properly. Alright. One step closer and we're about to compile. Get animation data not found. Get current frame count. Get animation data, get number of frames. Well, Well, we can actually just call like if in flipbook component equals null pointer, then we return 0, otherwise we return, or in flipbook component, I guess we can just call on the current state flipbook. So we'll just do this in current state flipbook. That should do it for that. Do we need to make this thing a U property? Let's just make it, see if we can. Cannot convert from A actor to A Dashkin actor star. Redefinition of formal parameter flip. Flipbook component. Alright. This entity animation controller component is acting as though it's not deriving from our parent. Yeah, let's just double check exactly what the hell's going on here. Like, this is saying that it doesn't know what incomplete type is not allowed? Is Dashkin animation controller component.h. It's a public U Dashkin animation controller component. So it's definitely not, like, can we not open this file? Good afternoon, Lucas. We're just working on refactoring some of our animation controller code so that we can play animations without having a Dashkin entity, which will allow us to play animations on our effects nicely. So we could not open our Dashkin animation controller component, so let's see, we have components. So we got public, components, well, maybe we need to call generate code files on this thing to get it to stop bitching about things. Let's see if it does what we want. So we'll see if we have to compile just about everything here to get this thing to quit being angry at us. It's still acting as though the Dashkin animation controller component is not extending from the animation controller component. Because it's like, oh, we can't call play EX, and it's like, no, like that's on your parent class. It's acting as though it's not compiling the animation controller component and stuff like that, but it is. Like, this is a thing that exists. Can you find this file now? Okay, you can at least find the file. It's not going to be able to actually do it. Come on, IntelliSense, what do you think exists here? It's just not gonna pop up. God damn it. It has no frickin' idea, does it? Well, let's just start messing with it. Let's just change the name and see if it's just doesn't exist. Because it's not a private or protected method, it is definitely a public method, so it should be able to discover it. It shouldn't be just all like, I don't know where it is. The only thing I could think of is that we have a forward declaration on a class type, and the compiler is getting confused because it can't resolve the difference between the two types because it doesn't have enough information or something like that to figure out which one is which. But that doesn't really make much sense at all to me. Like that shouldn't be the case. So let's just change the name of the function and rebuild it and see if there's something else that... There's got to be something else going on that I'm not seeing. Or not, or that was what was going on. I do not understand that. Forward declarations should work in those cases. Let me just see if there's anything. Forward declarations and function overloading C++. Let's see. Forward declarations is a symptom of C++. Forward declaration is not less a contract, but actually a promise, the cons of which you'll actually have to follow your contract. Issues about duplication. So it is possible that yeah, I'm not seeing anything that would cause any issue there, but apparently the forward declarations were screwing over the function overloading so that it couldn't figure out which function it was trying to call, and it was defaulting to the one it had on its own class instead of its parent class, which that's kind of nuts. Well, I'm going to play this, and it's probably going to just crash the hell out because we missed something in a refactor. If it doesn't, then that means there's probably something wrong with our refactor. Alright, so it looks like everything worked with our refactor, which means that there's probably something horribly, horribly fucking wrong with it, which we don't know anything about. So we're just going to pretend that everything is fine and ignore everything. Everything's fine. I'm just going to run away from our problems like Bitey. Alright, cool. Until it explodes in our face. Yes, and it most definitely will explode at some point. So I'm going to need to take a quick bio break, and I'll be right back. Yeah, animation controller stuff like that can cause some really crazy bugs later. And by explode interface, they literally can cause some of those. Like one of the most hilarious bugs I had was I implemented object reuse in my sophomore year space shooter game. So object reuse was basically, instead of making a new object every single time we wanted to fire a bullet or make something, it would use an object that was already created and just like reset it. So instead of like allocating new memory, it would use the memory it already had allocated. It would just go change things and the object would work, which is what you do. But I had a bug where it wasn't resetting the graphics stuff for an object. So what would happen is, like, I'd go fire a bullet, and it would fire whatever object had been destroyed inside of it previously. So, like, I like turn everything looks fine to start with, as it uses its object pool up to like, a couple thousand objects or whatever. And then as soon as it started reusing objects, it would use whatever was destroyed. And what would be destroyed would be like enemies or like pieces of the base you were in or the floor or the UI or just any game object. So all of a sudden, instead of firing machine gun bullets, you're firing pieces of the base. You're firing floor tiles. You're firing pieces of yourself. You're firing the UI that you just entered from the level, and you're firing them at the enemies, and the collision data is all correct on these things. So you're just like literally like chucking parts of the planet at everything. It was it was really damn funny when it happened because everything was fine. It worked. Like everything, it was following the rules exactly as you'd expect, and nothing was exploding. It was just all the wrong stuff. And the bullets only like set their velocity and stuff like that. So they weren't so they were flying correctly at the right speeds and everything. But the scales were all wrong, right? So like a chunk of the base that was supposed to be like this big on screen was scaled to 1, which for a bullet meant that like this chunk of the base would be like this big on screen instead. So your tiny little spaceship is like firing steel girders out of the front of it with no fucks given. It's great stuff. So we're going to have to get reset here. The squawking trunks, yes, the squawking trunks will still be there for quite a while. Alright, so that all works properly. So what the frick were we doing beforehand? That's right, we were trying to figure out how to make our effects. So we've created our flipbook component. We're also going to need a Dashkin animation controller component to attach. So So anim controller initialize. We're actually going to call anim controller play animation, and we're going to pass in the flip.getDefaultObject, and we're going to say true. So if we call create simple animated effect, we should be able to pass in a flipbook and a thing, and it should do what we want. So let's, yeah, we actually did make this. So we'll go hook it up in Blueprints and see what we can do. And we're basically gonna start trying to play some of our effects. Seems like we end up like screwing around for like, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna totally be productive today. And then like 4 hours later, okay guys, we finally got it so we can be productive tomorrow. And then we never actually get to doing anything. Welcome to game development, where we totally get everything done theoretically. The questions are made up and the points don't matter. The wonders of working from scratch. Yeah, well, we have this whole engine, right? Alright, so if we go to the player logic crap here, what we are going to do is I'm going to make an entirely new little thing here. And we want this is if we hit the B button. Let's make a vector here. And what we're going to call is not create effect by name, but create simple animated effect. And we can pass in any flipbook. Well, that's not very helpful, is it? Like, I would have expected this thing to have a little bit more than just paper flipbook there. Well, I guess the problem is that we made this thing T subclass of flipbook, when we should actually just take a paper flipbook pointer itself, because a subclass of a flipbook would be a blueprint, not an actual flipbook. And this is another one of those, just like, are you fucking for real? things with Unreal? Because you'd think that would include both, and it's like, no. You can't take just a normal paper flip book. You said it has to be a subclass of a